you look better. You look like
thank
you
you.
look like you've lost weight. And
Oh,
you, look,
yeah.
you look healthy, and not that.
Well, my eyes are not like, you know,
I saw you once around April or so. Of course, with the COVID stuff, and you have all that stuff. Just, everybody was stressed out. So, no,
yeah, enjoying what I'm doing.
good.
We'll see how this goes tonight.
I think it's going to go all right.
Did you guys get on staff reports or no?
They draft them. Yes, I haven't seen the one for yet for this one, but
Like the last,
yeah,
we were done like an hour before.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we had a lot. I mean, just been.
I think they recommended approval unless Westerfield came.
Oh, well, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe. So we're gonna go, looks like sit in the bathroom. So. Nice seeing you.
See you.
Hey, Connie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Excellent, thank you. Okay. Cheryl Remy Hunt is on Zoom.
On Zoom.
Yep. Cheryl, we just promoted you to a panelist.
You got it connected.
Yep. she's
Okay.
on. Okay, we're ready.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the September Town of Pendleton Planning meeting. We've got a few on Zoom. We've only got one board member is absent, is Brad Valentine, so I don't necessarily call a roll. We do have a quorum. I could ask the board to review the minutes from the previous meeting and motion to accept those as submitted, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
Thank you, Carol. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes approved. Old business, the thoroughfare.
I'm sorry.
Thoroughfare.
Thoroughfare. I have a couple of brief updates tonight about first the thoroughfare plan update and then our unified development ordinance update. The thoroughfare plan is still coming along. We had recently had our third steering committee meeting. It was held on August 24th, and we did it digitally. We've been having very good participation from our members. We did set our vision or our mission statement for the plan, and we're also working on our visioning workshop. Our visioning workshop is going to be a little bit of a different format than we're used to. We're going to try to do a lot of it digitally and then kind of wait and see if there's some public input sessions that we'll need to have later on, but we're going to try to do as much digital as possible. We do have a survey that just got put together that our residents can go online and fill out, and we'll be rolling that out in many different methods. We're going to have it go out on Facebook. We're going to have it go out in the town's newsletter. We're going to make sure we do a newspaper article about it so we can direct people to the right places. Of course, we're going to have an option if someone isn't able to go online and do it, they can come in and meet with us individually, and we can get the same information that they would have filled out online. We're also going to have it go out in the school newsletters and stuff like that too. So we're going to try to hit as many people as we can, even though we're not going to host an actual public input session. We'll see how that goes. And we have a great online community that I think will participate heavily in our project, so I'm not too worried about it. Unless you guys have any other questions for me about the thoroughfare plan, I can move on to the Unified Development Ordinance update. Nope. UDO update. We have been working on reviewing the chapters that I talked about at the last meeting. We did, in the meantime, hold our first focus group meeting, which went really, really well. Kyle was in on that call, and we had a lot of our local developers, our local realtors, a surveyor, things like that. Actually, we didn't have realtors for that one, but we had a lot of technical people in on the call that were helping us talk through some issues and give us some input on, what we were proposing, what issues they've seen in the past, so we can make sure we're crafting this ordinance to help us move into the future smoothly. Staff and the steering committee have reviewed. I've gotten feedback on chapter 1, and we've sent it over to the consultants already. We are now in the thick of chapters 2, 3, and part of chapter 6, which is one of my favorites. Is the landscaping part of the landscaping ordinances in there. I did send it over. DNR is reviewing parts and pieces of that for us too, to give us some, their input on what we should be doing for a landscape ordinance. For a timeline, we are anticipating having the documents start the adoption process in December. So we still have a good 4 months to be working through review and edits and stuff like that. We do have some additional another steering committee meeting that we'll still have to have. And then we have another focus group meeting that we'll be doing in the meantime. So we are definitely making this a priority project as we keep seeing more and more interest in Pendleton, and we need to get this wrapped up and done. So we thank you for your patience.
Sounds like we made a lot of progress.
Yes. You guys have any other questions about Unified, or any questions about the Unified Development Ordinance at this point? Nope. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Item C under old business is the Foster's Park parcels 1 and 3 primary plat. This is the 38 and 600 West. Caleb?
The primary plat has been included in your presentation. The application is owned by Franklin Bonds, and it is represented here tonight by Ben Lawyer and Edward Warranty Council. So the backstory on this plat is it was platted originally back in 2004, as you guys know. So it was part of the Foster's Park planned unit development, which was approved by the Plan Commission and Town Council in 2004. However, in 2008, the primary plat approval expired. Here in recent years, we have seen development pressure pick up again. And looking forward to that, this board recommended a rezone of the property to agricultural, as you know. Prior to that rezone being finalized, the primary plat was resubmitted. And that's what we are seeing here today. So we are using the planned unit development guidelines to review this. And we are looking at it in present day, using these planned unit development guidelines. So what we've got here is a timeline as well on the next page, maybe the previous one, Rachel, showing, that's okay. Showing kind of how this made its way through. Once we hit COVID, this was due to be on the April 1st committee. However, COVID kind of threw that off the rails. So now we're getting back on track and reviewing it here at this September meeting. I've included a list of the primary plat application requirements and how this plat meets up with them. And a lot of these are the more technical review or smaller picture items. So what I've got in red on the right side of this page is where they don't quite line up with the application requirements. And some of these are more minor things, some of them are more serious. And really most of it is just because of the passage of time that has occurred since this plat was originally drafted. One question that we were unsure of is whether parcel 6, which is the large wooded section on the west side of the property, is included in this plat or not. It was a little unclear if the basically park feature would be developed here or not. We also had partial or outdated ownership information shown. Utility information that was given was outdated or incomplete. Existing easements, we were curious if there were any and they weren't shown. For instance, we know that Duke has a major transmission line crossing the north tier of lots 1 through 5, and that is a long drawn out process to get a big line like that re-engineered. Our town lines currently just are on the same poles, but underneath those major Duke lines. Street names were not given in the proposed primary plat. Once again, a minor thing that I think we could probably come up with, but still something that is in our primary plat application requirements. A major issue we had is that pages 4 and 5 of the plat were not legible. The water line that was proposed was very, very faint. The topographic contour points were too prominent, distracting from the overall lot layout. It was difficult for our water department foreman to know if the lines that were proposed would be sufficient because he couldn't read the plans well enough to give a really adequate analysis. Additionally, he recommended that the line be extended all the way down 600 from 38 to create a closed loop because that works much better for water distribution. Questions arose regarding the drainage of this property. While a good portion of it is remaining undeveloped, the drainage report would still be a great thing to have reviewed and understanding how the proposed ponds that were part of the planned unit development will be utilized. Additionally, if we look at 600, not only did we prefer that the water line was brought all the way down 600, we also noted that they blend it back and forth between new subdivision road and the existing county road. And that really isn't going to work. When this was first platted, the two neighborhoods, Foster Branch Woods and Foster Branch Ridge, were not developed to the extent that they are now, which pretty much fills out. So a plan showing how those driveway or street cuts interact with this plan would be very handy. We also didn't have a traffic analysis, so understanding how this neighborhood will impact safety and the intersection at 38, both at the main boulevard entrance and at 600 was a major factor. Something that really red flags for us. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel now to talk about some of the longer term planning issues.
We want to talk about the technical things that we found first.
Did I miss a page? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, a major difference we saw when I talked about parcel 6 is that that does count as preserved open space. for the planned unit development. And there was a difference in the acreage shown between about 20 acres and 12 or 13 acres. So that was a major issue we wanted to resolve. Additionally, the rear yard setbacks along common areas that were required in the planned unit development ordinance and concept plan were not shown or mentioned. The street widths, most of them being 26 feet back to back, are permitted in the planned unit development guidelines. However, we've had several years to see how this works in a different planned unit development in Hunsinger Farm. We know they don't. They are too narrow to allow for, say, school buses and other large trucks, including fire trucks, to really safely navigate, especially if there is a car parked on the road or anything like that. So that is something that we really would prefer not to see and would not permit in any subdivision today. All right.
Thank you, Bill.
One of the things that staff did notice in this presentation as well, or this primary plat, the proposed improvements to County Road 600 West, we did not feel like were adequate. The petitioner is proposing 2 neighborhood collector streets to merge onto an old county road that's not been constructed to our town standards yet. This was one that was annexed since this since this HUD ordinance went into place. The only improvements proposed by the petitioner include a mill and repave of this road segment, not including any curb and gutter or widening of the road. We would recommend that the road be redesigned and constructed to the same standards as the neighborhood collector streets and take into account any additional neighborhoods with ingress and egress onto County Road 600. Like Kayla noted, a traffic study was not submitted to show how the internal streets function. Planning staff, we kind of had some issues with how County Road 600 and those neighborhood collector streets were intersecting on the plan. For stormwater management issues, again, we really were not clear on how stormwater would be managed on the site. There are the proposed retention ponds on parcel 6. However, the primary plat submitted was only for parcels 1 and 3, so it didn't address anything with the stormwater management of the site. Furthermore, the PUD ordinance and the concept plan require the petitioner to submit the methodology of containing and conveying the runoff associated with development of the site, and we did not receive one from the petitioner. Those were kind of the more hands-on technical pieces that we reviewed on the primary plat itself. But just as planning staff, we do have some other significant issues that we think overall are impacting the site that we should be taking into consideration. There are some land use issues. The town has completed significant annexations in the project area since 2004 when this was originally put together. There are residents now who are in town that did not have any input on how this was going to be developed originally. The adjacent neighborhoods have developed with larger lots since 2004. So what was originally in the books back in 2004 is not what it looks like out there today. We did adopt a new future land use map in 2018, and there are new land uses adjacent to this property. We also have some significant transportation issues. The lack of improvements proposed for County Road 600 West may not be sufficient for future use of this road. Our future land use map, the one that we adopted in 2018, shows the land south of this property transitioning to a commercial use and also additional residential use. And we believe that as part of our 2020 thoroughfare plan update, this road may qualify to be upgraded to a collector road instead of a local road as it currently stands. The city of Anderson, as we all know, is doing the 67th Street Extension project, and that will have and is having a major influence on development in this area. This project has not taken into consideration with this submittal. We are also looking at a connection to 146th Street in Hamilton County, and that's not been taken into consideration with this middle either. This connection is part of the 2021 Interchange Master Plan that is being developed by the Hamilton Redevelopment Commission. We did a State Street State Road 38 corridor study back in 2015. And again, the recommendations that were set forth in that plan are not being taken into consideration with this submittal. There are new traffic patterns in the vicinity that have, again, not been taken into consideration with this submittal. The petitioner has not submitted a traffic analysis to show impacts the project will have on our local road network, including that intersection at County Road 600 West and State Road 38. Finally, the primary plat does not include the appropriate side path treatment along County Road 600 West as shown in our 2017 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan that this board had recommended for approval to the Hamilton Town Council. So with all of the factors that staff reviewed, we really did not feel like we were given enough information to comfortably feel like we could approve a petition that was submitted on this project. So we do recommend that this is denied. You're welcome.
Any questions from the board for Rachel or Caleb?
Jim, I have a few. if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Kaylee, you mentioned the the street widths under 30 feet presenting a health and safety issue. And then you talked about, you mentioned buses, I think, but can you go into more detail why the staff believes that the street widths under 30 feet present a health and safety issue?
Yes, under 30 feet back-to-back curve, which is what is standard in both Carrot Glen and Pines. If you look at that, you'd have to take off 2 feet for the curb and gutter. So that gets you down to a 28 foot. And that leaves on a normal freight street that goes through Pendleton of 14 feet for each lane. But if you're working with a 26 foot wide street, you subtract 2 feet once again for the curb and gutter, and you end up with a 24 feet, and that puts you at 2 12-foot lanes that have to pass each other. And that is just too narrow when you take into account larger vehicles that are utilized by both the fire department or ambulances, not to mention school buses, when they are going down a street, and especially if there are any obstructions in the street.
It says in the staff report that the town has completed significant annexations in the project area since 2004, which is objectively true. And that's mentioned as a reason to recommend denial of the petition. Can you please go into more detail why those annexations since 2004 would affect the town's decision making here on this primary plat?
Part of the town of Pendleton back in 2004. Those two subdivisions, Foster's Branch Woods and Foster's Branch Bridge. I apologize if I incorrectly stated those, but they have, again, like I said, they were not included in town back in 2004. They were annexed 2018, I believe. So we do have residents who should have some say in what is going on in the property that is adjacent to them. We also did it was the west annexation, I think in 2014 was when that was completed, which really took in a lot of property all the way out to State Road 13 along the interstate. So there were a lot of properties then that came into town that we now, have a say in how those are developed in the future. And our plan commission did update the land use map, our future land use map, with uses that may not have been what the county was doing at the time that this was originally done. The PUD ordinance in the PUD document.
Mentioned also in the staff report that a new future land use map was adopted in 2018 by the town with new land uses and adjacent parcels. What effect would that land use map have on the viability of this primary plat submittal?
The land uses that are south of this project that we're talking about tonight really could have a significant influence on County Road 600 West. Whereas the traffic patterns that are being experienced there today, or that could even be influenced by this project, the road may not be adequate enough to serve the need that it will have in the future. Also, like I said, the 67th Street Extension project that Anderson is currently in, they're working through that project right now, and the town of Pendleton has partnered with them on that. But those land uses that will change and pop up with that project, again, will have a significant influence on this parcel as well.
The transportation issue is part of the staff findings. It says that the petitioner did not take into consideration the 2015 State Street Corridor Study. Why does that matter?
The 2015 State Street and State Road 38 corridor study, one of the recommendations that came out of that, there was a lot of, they looked a lot at, this was a consultant that worked with us on this project. There are concerns with the curves in the road on State Road 38 in this area. But one of the recommendations that came out of that plan included having limited cuts onto State Road 38 and being mindful of where those cuts are and how traffic gets onto State Road 38. We have invested significantly as a community at our interchange ramps within the last couple of years. And we've had to invest heavily in the business park entrances that we have at the Pendleton Business Park and Falls Point Business Park. And again, we need to be mindful of how the other side of the interstate develops over time as well. And some of the transportation improvements that are being presented as part of this project, we just don't have enough information at this point to know if this is something that will, if they're placed in appropriate places along 38. Again, that connection at County Road 600 West is on a curve. So when people are turning, east or west onto State Road 38, there are some issues happening there. And again, we just don't have any data to support whether or not that is a safe intersection or not, especially with the addition of the number of homes that are being proposed with this plat.
I've got one thing, just my understanding. The property that is east of this land, is that, I know it's farmland right now, is it zoned commercial or is that the?
I believe it's zoned agriculture right now, but our future land use map shows it as planned business.
Planned business, okay.
Connie, have any questions? Connie, do you have any questions for Rachel or Kayla? Not sure she can hear me, Rachel.
Hey, Cheryl and Connie.
Yes.
Do you ladies have any
I
questions
feel like
for us?
these- I'm sorry?
Do you have any questions for staff?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. I assume attorneys for the owners would like to speak.
Yes.
And then after they close, I will let the audience speak before or against.
My name is Lynn Lawyer, and of course I represent the owners of the real estate that we're discussing here tonight of Foster's Park. What you're doing here tonight has to be and is governed by the Indiana state statute and the Pendleton Town's own ordinance of 2004-04, and you must follow the law concerning that. After our clients originally filed this, they have basically followed all the steps that they need to under the ordinance and under the statute. They have done the application form, they've paid the filing fee, they've submitted the drawings. The notice requirements have been done, the newspaper publication. We're here a lot longer than we should have been due to COVID, but also because the town failed to publish notice for our last meeting. The petitioner's affidavit has been filed, and actually we've sent certified mail twice for notice, even though I don't believe we have to. Thus, Foster's Park has met all the requirements criteria for approval of their primary plat, and the Planning Commission must approve that plat as submitted. Although we appreciate the comments, my office has tried to meet with your assistant planning director here on a couple of occasions. We have gotten no place. Some of the commentary is the first time I've heard tonight. My client actually sat down with them in July, and some of the things they mentioned here were not mentioned to him. As problems. The thing is, the reason the statute is the way it is just to prevent this kind of thing from happening to a landowner who is trying to develop. It was approved. We've got the primary plat. Looking at it in the present day is fine, and some of these things possibly could have been addressed. But all we got met with was, well, we want to return it to agriculture and start again. My client as a business person has several $100,000 already invested in this and does not want to start again and lose his investment. Parcel 6, I will address that. That is preserved as a wooded area in that. Some of the things that they said were required, I didn't see those under your zoning ordinance. If they couldn't see one page of whatever was submitted, my office was never called and said we're having a difficult time seeing the things on the drawing. So you can't necessarily change your zoning ordinances and then undo an ordinance, a PUD, a planned unit development that is part of your ordinance. You can't simply undo that because things may have changed or you may not like what it is at this current time. The stormwater is not required by the PUD. The road projects aren't. Annexations that later took place do not undo that PUD ordinance. We would have been happy to talk, but the time of that is past. You can't take 2018 things and attempt to change what is already part of your ordinance and part of the law. We would like to see this passed and for my client to go forward with this. I think we could meet any criteria. I would like to have a better dialogue with not only the Planning Commission, but certainly with your staff. So some of this could have possibly been avoided. I mean, my client was trying to be reasonable all through this. In fact, clear back in December, some of the people on his staff had a number of unreturned phone calls for probably nearly a month. So we have done our part. We are asking the Planning Commission to do their part and approve this plat, and we would like to move forward.
Jeff, can you comment on the time of 2008 when the plat expired?
When the plat expires, the PUD is still in place. And for the purposes of today's hearing, the PUD is still in place. The town's requirements for primary plats are, one of the things is the site development plan as part of 154.03. That's one of the things that Rachel has looked at and Kayla, and that makes up part of the staff's findings as I read them. I'll be honest, I read them for the first time tonight. I had not looked at them. But that portion is, I think and the staff can speak to this more than I am, but you are allowed to analyze the primary plat of the day it was submitted because that before. The other one is a nullity, but the one was back in the last decade, 2 decades. Yeah. So the one that is there now, it can be analyzed under the conditions that are now. And I think what the planning staff has done is pointed out, we're not in 2008 anymore. We're not in 2004 anymore. We're here. And these other things that the town may consider lawfully, state statute, Ms. Lawyer is correct. There's a state statute that says you have to follow your ordinances. Well, I'm looking at an ordinance right now with primary plats. And several of the things that Rachel and Kayla put in the report are present. But it is not a certainty that just because it may have hit the slot in 2 decades ago, 15 years ago, doesn't mean it necessarily has to hit today. It'd be a completely different independent analysis that you're allowed to take a second look at it because they had it submitted a second time. Nobody's fault. We know what happened in 2008. But
There may have been more supporting information that was submitted back in 2004, and that did not get submitted this time.
If I may, it would have been nice if on the several occasions we tried to talk to staff, that they could have discussed some of the items they are talking about tonight. Obviously, Mr. Graham is just seeing them. I have never seen a copy of them, nor were they brought up in any of the discussion.
When we met with Mr. Urban, staff was very clear on the items that we were missing that we needed from him.
You wish to speak? Thank you. Questions for him? People in the audience, if you'd like to speak, I'd certainly entertain everybody to speak, but if we discuss one topic, I don't think we need to discuss this 3 or 4 times. But in other words, the cut on 38, the road, traffic, you're welcome to make your comments individually, if you would, please. Please address the podium and state your name.
Before she gets started, if you don't mind, in your Google Drive under the August, September meeting, there is a couple public under the Foster's Park subfolder. This is, I think, the 7th subfolder. There's a PDF list icon objection and a Foster Park HUD Marissa Skaggs document as well. That those have to be part of your consideration here tonight as well. They were, I think they were submitted back when we talked on this the first time. Yeah.
Some of this is going to be the same stuff that Kayla and Rachel talked about, just because I wasn't aware what they were going to say. But I will stick to the 5 minutes barrier. So my name is Marissa Skaggs, and it's 633 West Foster Branch Drive. And I understand that at some point, probably while I live in Foster Branch, that these parcels will be developed in some way or fashion. And I appreciate having time to weigh in on it tonight. We as a community in town need to exhibit great stewardship with a scarce resource like land. And we have one chance to do things the right way, capitalize on the assets that we have at our disposal, and grow and maintain the community that we all enjoy. I took a little bit of time to compile some data. You guys have it, I think, in that folder, on current valuations, as well as lot sizes for the area. And I looked at the Pilton 2018 comprehensive plan to see whether this project is in line with our goals. And I don't need to like belay the point, but like it's in there, you can read. You can see how it measures up. Item 5.1 of the comprehensive plan is that the town develops in a manner that complements and enhances the existing neighborhoods. You have that, you can tell that it doesn't. 5.3 in the comprehensive plan, I can't weigh in on the materials that are going to be used because we haven't had a builder plan or a developer plan. But given what was presented in 2004 in the Indy Star articles, those materials would not be deemed high quality by today's standards. As far as infrastructure, there's obviously a standing water issue when it rains. But aside from that, traffic's already a huge issue. We had an accident last Thursday, a person trying to turn onto 600 was rear-ended on 38. With the addition of the Layton Road extension, I can't imagine that getting any easier or any better. And it handles us fine. Like, we're a neighborhood of 22 houses. It's okay for us and our surrounding neighbors. But if you add 171 houses with the potential to add more, I can't fathom that it's going to be a good situation. Foster Branch Woods is a relatively new acquisition for the town of Pendleton. Rachel said 2018. When we asked to be annexed, the town council really looked very closely at our tax revenue to see whether we were going to be adding enough revenue to justify their expenditures for street and light maintenance, police and fire coverage, and other municipal services. When we applied for annexation, we were kind of a sure bet. The town knew what they were getting. I have to wonder that when we crunch the numbers, whether this development will be deemed as favorable for the town in the long term, given the infrastructure necessary to make it appealing for home buyers. Communities need diversity when it comes to housing. I believe we've achieved this goal within our community. We have modular and prefab homes. Downtown Pendleton offers historic older homes, and we have several types of apartments and condos. We have long-term medical care housing. We have different types of neighborhoods such as Country Farms, the Pines at Deerfield, Falls Park Village, and now Carrot Glen and Silverthorne. We also have a good amount of rural residential and several developments of executive style homes, and of course, plenty of agriculture. Are we in need of another large-scale neighborhood development? When I look at Huntsinger Farms and how that situation has evolved, it makes me reluctant to proceed with Foster's Park. That situation was unavoidable from a municipal standpoint, but due to economic conditions, the developer abandoned the project, and 10 years later, we're still talking about it. Tonight, it's on the agenda, kind of ironic. I understand there's probably not an ordinance on our books that prohibits projects during a recession, a pandemic, or an election year, but we can't ignore what's happening around us. Also, during the time in which the PUD was active and the original plat was valid, we did see signs of housing growth, but zero progress towards a visible or viable plan for Foster's Park. On the plat plan, there were several references of typical street widths and permitted densities. Pendleton didn't make a name for itself as an attractive place to live and raise a family by being typical or exploiting every opportunity that was permissible. This community has worked tirelessly my entire lifetime to differentiate ourselves from other areas by priding ourselves on being forward-thinking, charming, strong, and historic. It wasn't that long ago that you'd get out of the zip code and people would go, Pendleton, isn't that where the prison is? Now they know about our Ped Bridge or Falls Park or Falls Perk, and they know that the bank is actually a restaurant. People know those things because you guys and other parts of our town leadership have worked really hard and made very tough decisions like this one. Many things have happened in Pendleton during the last 16 years since this project was first announced, with no progress or updates from anyone regarding these parcels. Before we add approximately 200 new homes to our town, we should really assess this potential project and see how this measures up to our expectations, whether it's necessary for our town's health, and if it's the chance we want to take on a land resource that is becoming very scarce. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Valentine. I live at 5297 South, 800 West, LaPel, just a little bit west of there. I own 6 acres of farmland, basically right across from that, just a little bit south of that pond that you see there by the wooded area. Mentioned drainage, that whole area is wet. I've lived out there all my life. I've farmed all my life. The whole north end of that, from that wooded area, you'll see water 6-8 inches a lot of times in the spring seasonal rain standing out there. So right now, that water all comes to the south edge of that woods, goes right across the road, and that last heavy rain we had, there was water probably 8 inches deep, 30 feet wide, runs into Hudson's, like a grass waterway, runs about 400 feet, then crosses over my sister-in-law's yard, then washes down through my 6 acres. So I've got a grass waterway. It takes up about a ½ acre. It's trying to get to Foster's Branch, and that's the only natural waterway down there. So that retention pond that's shown there, I assume that's a retention pond. I don't really want it to have an overflow or a high water overflow. That pond's got to be deep enough and big enough to hold that water. That water now is a real mess during the seasonal high water. I also farming down there and have been off and on 600 a million times in my life, it seems like. But when I've got my tractor and field cultivator and rolling basket behind it, it's 65 feet long. So I've got to really hope there's no one coming from the west when I pull out there to go to my house west of there. I mean, corn planter is only 15 feet wide, but when you're pulling all this big equipment. So also Filburn's that farms south of there, and Roger Boyd that farms right south of the end of that subdivision proposal. We've all got to get our equipment down there, and I've got some of the smallest old farm equipment around there. These guys all got bigger stuff than me. So I would like to see somewhere in the plan that road widen. But I don't want to go back to the original proposal that we were going to have to drag our farm equipment through this subdivision to get out on 600. So I appreciate it if you got that out of your mind. Now I'm going to speak real quick. As the township trustee, we want all the AV we can get. We need money for fire and everything else. Need money to run the township with. And I would really hate to see $150,000 average home go right across the road from our nice Fox Run, Foster Branch Ridge, Foster Branch Woods, Jefferson Place. It would be like almost like putting a trailer park next to a high-end subdivision. Even though these houses will probably be nice ones, if there's something like we're seeing going in out here at Hunsier, where my son lives, they'll be under 200,000, I'd say. So I appreciate you letting me speak, and somehow that drainage has got to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Mr. Brown?
I'll be short and sweet. Gary Brammer, 6228 Foster's Branch Drive. She makes a good point in that her client has several $100,000 invested, and he doesn't want to lose his investment. Well, myself and several people here have several $100,000 invested, and we don't want to lose our investments either. Truth is, what they did a few months ago was nothing more than throw a Hail Mary. It was fourth and long. I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the meeting. And they ran and brought us the same old plans from 15 or 16 years ago. They did no homework in those 15 or 16 years. While at the same time, we were out there developing that area, putting our hard-earned money to work at that point. They brought out the plans that are no longer doable. They put nothing into this project, nothing at all, nothing new. Even a Hail Mary has to have a plan or it's not going to work. The quarterback that doesn't practice that Hail Mary is going to look foolish at some point. So the other thing I want to mention is that the town of Pendleton's not ready for this. Our thoroughfare plan is not yet ready, and it needs to be ready before we add all these extra cars to it. Our impact fees are not yet in place, and we want those impact fees in place before another development comes to town and we lose out on all those monies. So we can come back every month. I mean, they're getting paid handsomely to be here by the hour. We're not. We're kind of here out of our own. So the only thing I is asking is that you tell them to come up with a real plan, or tell them that the Hail Mary fell short and it's game over.
I was gonna
Okay,
wait until, I do have comments in the chat that I can read out loud when, if you guys
Does
are.
anybody else publicly here want to speak that's in attendance before we go to the chats? Okay. Rachel?
Okay, Heather Stommel says, in 2004, we sat down with Urbon's land manager and had a redo of the drawings. It was 4 houses per acre and all brick houses that faced County Road 600. The drawing they have is the original drawing from 2004 before we agreed to any adjustments. I do have more. There is a last name of Holmes that says the intersection at 638 is dangerous as it is. Cassie Tate says she lives at 6655 South, 600 West. We are supportive of development in this area, but only development that is similar to others in the area. We are very concerned about traffic issues in the proposed plan in conjunction with 600 West. This area with the curve on State Road 38 is not conducive to this many homes. And then the last name Holmes also comments, the road is entirely too narrow. 2 full-size trucks don't safely pass currently. And that's all the comments that I've received through the Zoom meeting from the public.
All right, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Somebody on the board have any questions for the attorneys representing the landowner?
I guess I just have a general question. Does staff feel like they've adequately worked with the petitioner over the last 6 months to try to work out the differences? I mean, we don't want to just deny something and drop the hammer if we haven't tried. So I guess that's just my general question.
I believe we did. We sat down with Mr. Urbans himself face to face and did have a discussion about the concerns that planning staff had. And it did not appear in that meeting that we were going to be able to work together to make any of the changes that staff was presenting at that time. So Kayla did provide a very thorough list to him about what items we were specifically missing. You know, when we talked about the drainage plan during this meeting tonight, we also talked about the traffic analysis. And it did not appear that Mr. Urban was willing to provide any additional documentation than what was already submitted. Kayla, would you agree that?
I agree. The petitioner was unwilling to submit a traffic analysis. The petitioner was unwilling to submit a traffic analysis or a drainage report and felt it was unnecessary to do so. Can I see the letters that were submitted? I can't find them on my phone, just to make sure I read everything.
Before we switch subject, can you expand a little bit on, they didn't feel necessary to, regarding the drainage, was there any rationale to that?
The rationale behind it was that these were the drawings that were approved basically. And I know especially in regards to the traffic analysis, the petitioner felt it was our duty as a community to do the traffic study, not his.
And then I know this is a PUD, there's others, but we have had other developers do the traffic studies.
Correct.
Have we approved any primary flats where we didn't have sufficient drainage information and traffic information? I know that's normally what we have enough information to.
No, not that I'm aware of. When we did Carrot One, obviously we had a traffic analysis that the petitioner had submitted to us prior to plat approval, I believe. When we did Hunsinger Farms, we did not. There was a traffic study that had been done in conjunction with that petition, or when the HUD ordinance was approved, there was a traffic analysis that had been done with the HUD ordinance. In this particular case, there was a traffic study that had been done previously, but it only projected out to 2014. So it was not useful for staff at this point because it only projected to 2014. When we did do Hunsinger Farms, which is, I would say, comparable to this project in the, because it was a planned unit development as well, they did end up doing a traffic analysis because NDOT did require them to do one. So we did get information and data from that traffic analysis. Does that help, Carol?
Staff gave us their recommendation, but as far as the list, but what are some things moving forward would you want?
We need to have a drainage report done for this project. Again, the petition as filed is only for parcels 1 and 3. It does not include the parcels that have the drainage ponds on them right now. So we don't have any information if those drainage ponds are going to support the development that's going in on this project. The Foster's Park Planned Unit Development Concept Plan that was approved back in 2004 specifically states that petitioner needs to provide additional information to us, and that was not done. And that was specific to the drainage plan. I can pull up the specific language of it too. And the same thing with the traffic analysis that had been done back in 2004. This is all using documentation and data that was done in the early 2000s. We all know that we do have an increase in traffic on the State Road 38 corridor since 2004. You know, on this drainage summary in the concept plan that was approved, it does say a methodology of containing and conveying the runoff associated with a large-scale land development will need to be constructed for this site. We did not receive any of that. Outlets for any stormwater system appears to be one or more of these existing culverts and drainage ways under County Road 600 West. So again, as we stated earlier, there's been a lot of changes that have happened around this site that do influence the design of the site. And the information that we've received is just not adequate enough. So a drainage plan, a traffic analysis. We would want more information about County Road 600 West. And we would also like County Road 600 West further designed and developed to take into account any, just that merging of traffic. The intersections that are proposed with the neighborhood collector streets and how they connect to 600 West. We would want more information about that from a traffic engineer, showing that that's a safe intersection that they're proposing. In terms of the traffic analysis, some of my concerns as staff, you know, is the entrance of the road or the entrance of the subdivision too close to the curve in the road. Yeah, and
Are you talking about having that wider, kind of like Carrick Glen, where they widened it to open?
No, I think that would require a traffic lane, a turning lane to be put in, and maybe even a passing lane.
And this doesn't have it.
But actually the curve of State Road 38, of the intersection that they're proposing, is that too close to the curve? And like I said, as staff, we just don't have any information to know if that's a safe intersection or not. And again, with County Road 600, the way it ties into State Road 38 right now at the curve, the addition of this many households, you know, how does that impact that intersection as well? You're welcome.
Since 2004, a lot has transpired out there. We come up to 2008, obviously there's recession hit, things went to pot. We did have an expiration date on that filing, but it still is a PUD. It's my opinion, there's a lot of items that are missing: drainage, traffic. We've got a lot of things that have changed there with the road cut. Additional road cuts you want on State Road 38 is going to coincide with the 67th Street extension, which is going to further complicate things there as well. We've asked for drainage reports, traffic studies, engineering reports, which we don't have yet. But not to say that this couldn't happen someday. I think the homeowners made good points there that having some common homes developed out there would be beneficial rather than having homes that are of lesser value or quality or design than what's currently out there. There is some high value property out there. It might lend itself to this subdivision, have another high-end subdivision there if and when you need to redevelop this or redesign it to get the plat approved and up to the current standards to meet the planning department, the highway department, and the drainage boards within the county to get through there. With the growth that's happened out there, I'm not sure that your current pond and drainage would serve adequately enough for that subdivision based on what's happened on the west side of the road and the way that's built up over there. Again, not to say that couldn't happen, but the comments that pond might need to be bigger or relocated or moved in that subdivision. So with all that said, it's my recommendation that we follow staff's recommendation to deny this as submitted tonight. I guess I would think that you might want to go back and redo your homework to re-engineer, redesign, or relook at that whole PUD or plat approval, bring it up to 2020 for standards. Pardon me?
If I may respond.
Yes, please.
Just to go to some of your commentary, the code actually says that any drainage submitted to local or county agencies, that we would provide copies to you when that is done. It doesn't necessarily say that we have to do them before prior approval. Pond is there for drainage purposes, and quite frankly, there's projection from people out here on what type of homes are going to be built there without apparently any knowledge of what is planned to be put in there. We're going to put nice houses in there. They may not be as large as some of the other houses in the area because they're huge houses out there. But all types of people need homes in Pendleton, from small to large, to people who are in retirement, people who are starting out. Mr. Valentine kind of addressed the farming issues. My husband farms across the street from this, and he can get through with very large equipment, including a 12-row combine as necessary. This developer never abandoned the project. Obviously, the PUD was there. He started making inquiries in the fall of 2019 through a developer, and then in December, when we upped the ante and started making phone calls asking for it, we were stonewalled. There was no return calls, including a client, my client and his staff saying, are people on vacation? Why aren't we getting return phone calls? So the traffic issue, there may be some things that could be done, but the thing is we have tried to talk, including the last time Mr. Urbans himself came in and met with you. He went directly from this building to my office. And basically his commentary was, they simply want this thing to start again, to go back to ag and be restarted. That was his comment to me. The other thing is after the December Stonewall, the planning director here put into motion things that gave us only a very brief time period to comply. I talked about my client actually was out of the country at the time. So it gave less than a month for us to deal with what was happening here. It would have been nice for your staff to share some of this information that they apparently just even shared with Mr. Graham with my office, so it could have been better addressed. The thing is we're back to that this is a PUD and this needs to be approved. So I would like for the Planning Commission to address and look at that. The town knew of this PUD when they made their traffic studies, their look to the future plans that happened after this. They knew there was a PUD there. It's part of your ordinance. And I think that, coming in at the last minute, delaying development further is very unfair to my client. We want to put nice houses in. I'm part of the Pendleton community. I live here also. And I also know of Mr. Urbans, and he has put in many fine projects. So I would like you to consider that. Mr. Williams, do you have some other comments?
I just have a brief comment when it comes to the quality of housing or people housing there. This is more of a personal comment. My wife and I, we've been married about 3 years. We're going along, and you would price us out. You would not have us here in your community with the development that you're proposing or keeping the block. And that's about the comment that I have on that.
I'll answer your comment there. We have 900 homes planned on the books right now that you can afford. So there are affordable homes now and being constructed in and around Pendleton within the city limits. Thank you for your comments again.
What are our options?
You can approve the primary plat. Remember, you're here on the plat, not the PUD. You're here on just the plat. You can approve with modifications that the commission can draft here tonight. You can continue this to gather additional information, or you can deny. So you really have, I guess that's four. That's four things you can do here tonight. If you do either approve or deny, or approve with conditions, you must make specific findings of why that is. An example of the specific finding would be to adopt the staff report as your findings and any testimony that was given tonight by staff or general public. That could be that, and that could be memorialized for Tim to sign. Either, or you could approve, make findings of why it should be approved. It's completely up to you, but you have those four options tonight.
What would the petitioner's options be then?
If the, well, if the primary plat application is denied, it's out. And in most circumstances, the petitioner could resubmit a plat. Because on your recommendation, the town council changed the zoning out there to ag, they could still do another PUD, but, you know, I guess theoretically a plat. I'm getting more into their expertise than mine. But this wouldn't be a situation where you could just make corrections and submit a new one because it's under a new zoning scheme. We're operating under a grandfathered zoning scheme, for lack of a better word. So they are, they would be back to the drawing board. They could also, of course, and you know, there's, I think, 4 lawyers in the room. There's always judicial review of the plan commission's decision. That's another option that would be open to any petitioner. And if you approve it, then there's also judicial review available to any remonstrators in the area. So, but your options are the 4 that I mentioned.
I understand that we're considering the plat and not the PUD. And I personally like the idea of having some transition between higher end homes and commercial. I don't know. I feel like this PUD could still work in some form without having to change the ordinance. But my concern is we don't have enough information to approve the primary plat. From everything I can tell, there's too much information missing.
I will carry on with the motion to deny based on your recommendation to adopt the findings of staff.
Adopt in the presentation tonight, as well as testimony.
As well as testimony. And to deny the plat as submitted. Do I have a second?
I second. I would like to say, if I'm able.
Sure.
You know, everyone is concerned with aesthetics. I get that. I do think we need to discuss how we graduate from one size of home to another, you know, because at some point there are shifts, right? We all have them. I have one going right behind me, you guys. And that's a different shift. But I'm denying mainly because of infrastructure. It goes in once, that's it. It has to be done right, and it has to be presented right. The drainage has to be presented right. That's infrastructure. I have to feel confident that one time it's going in, and it's going in well. And that is part that wasn't presented. All the other stuff typically are things that we can work through, but the safety and the infrastructure, those things on the list. So for that, I do have to deny.
Thank you, Jenny. I have a motion, a second on PC 04012020-1 Foster's Park for denial based on staff findings and recommendations, and also the input and comments presented here tonight.
Okay, it does have to be a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Thank you. If I could have a roll call vote, we'll start with Carol on my left, and Rachel, I'll ask you to comment to Connie, because I'm not sure she can hear me.
How about I'll call the names.
Okay,
Does that help?
that'd be fine. Thank you.
Carol Hanna,
I agree. I approve what it was.
We have a motion to deny based on the finding. So a yes vote is a yes to no. Very clear.
Al Eichhorn,
I'm gonna abstain.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes?
Jenny Sisson,
Yes.
Cheryl Rainey Hunt,
Yes to deny.
Connie Schultz Heinz.
Yes. Deny.
Motion has been denied.
Motion was carried.
Motion is carried.
Yeah.
All right. Moving to new business. I think the next one, new business A, will be a little bit shorter. Before we get into B and C, I will have a recess after new business of A for everybody. If there's anybody who'd like to exit now over Foster's Park, they could do so quickly. Let's just go ahead and call a recess now. Let's be back in here at 20 after, please.
Gosh, a month and a half ago, he signed something.
Oh, an oath?
And I've lost it.
I'll get it back to
And I
you.
had to get a new email and it's just totally turned my life upside down. So.
A new email. Yeah, I'll send it again. I'm gonna tell my sister right now to send it.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Don't. Sorry. You're welcome. Joe, we need to send another oath to Michelle. Back to Columbus.
Someday, it's still out there. Don't get wrong.
Well, Pendleton Middle School. So. Okay. Yeah. Your daughter's on 10. Oh, yeah. 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 I thought she was probably the son. It's funny. My wife was talking about the meetings that I had. And I said, look, I'm a really cool girl. I said, your wife. How could she do it? And he just rolled his, oh, yeah, these still girls are kind of
Keep plugging up. I usually just go in for a short period of time, going to the store or something.
I don't know how to fix that.
Unplug it.
All right, Connie and Cheryl, can you hear us again? All right.
Thank you. Rachel. Okay, next item under new businesses, PC 09022 020-01. Miller surveys primary plat for a property located at 7550 South State Road 67, locally known as Sisson Family Dentistry.
What we have here tonight is a simple 2-lot subdivision of an existing 2-acre site into 2 commercial lots, one being the existing Sisson Family Dentistry. And what's being proposed is a simple split in half to create another planned business lot on the adjacent lot. It's been for sale for quite some time, and there's been a sign out on 67. If you scroll to the vicinity map, you can see, if you're not familiar, where this building is located. It does attach to the Pizza King building there at Angle Road. The drive cuts through to Pizza King and Angle Road intersection there by the high school, Madison Avenue where it crosses 67. So this is on the south side of Sisson Family Dentistry. There's a grass area that's half the lot. This does meet our planned business, both matrix requirements. It is an acre, which makes it twice the amount required for a planned business zone lot. It has adequate road frontage. Sisson is left with adequate grassy area or a non-covered area. One thing that we did mention with the petitioner, who is represented here tonight by Nathan Althouse of Miller Land Surveying, is that one road cut would be preferred over 2. A shared drive would be very much in keeping with our planned business design guidelines. And also on a busy section of 67, one set of brake lights and turn signals is a lot easier to navigate than 2. So now where that egress easement goes is still kind of up for debate. We're planning on working with the petitioner over the course of the next month to sort of get that hammered out. We'd also like setback lines to be shown on the plat. And I also would like to work with the petitioner to locate the water line, which I believe runs very close to the overhead electric underneath at the back of the lot. But I just want to make sure it is in fact in there. My GIS layer for water, which is a little less than reliable in this case, locates it a little further in the lot. In addition, I just want to check with the petitioner that there are no other easements or documents we need to be looking at in this split. So apart from a few minor things, this is a relatively simple split. Sisson is served by municipal services already, as you can see. We've got overhead electric, underground fiber, all sorts of things like that. 10-inch water line goes around either at the back of the lot, and additionally it goes across, goes along State Road 67 between 67 and the railroad tracks. There is adequate space here, good zoning, so plenty of room to develop a planned business structure. My recommendation over the course of the next month or before this board sees the secondary plat is that the changes I have just mentioned be shown on this plat, and just a few technical errors here and there. Yeah, it's to approve with those conditions, and then you should be seeing this brought back to you here probably in over a month actually. But
We don't know if this time because they'll be built there, or we're just splitting it, cutting it out.
I just know that a gentleman is purchasing the lot with the intent of building a strip mall lasting.
It's probably planned business.
Yes. His plans are fluid depending on the outcome of this and what you can put on the lot.
Sure. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I guess with the deed identification and everything, this looks an awful lot like a secondary plat, not a primary plat.
I'll let the surveyor speak more to what they prepare here tonight, but I agree, there is a page 2. I mean, with a few brush ups, this will be ready to go for the secondary plat.
So we'll get a chance to review. There's some bearings and distances on here that look a little like they need some correction. We can take care of that with the secondary.
All right, any further questions? You, sir?
I'm Nathan Allhouse with Miller Surveying. Our office is located at 948 Connor Street, Noblesville, Indiana. So I'm here to represent this plat. It's 2-lot minor plat. You know which property it is. Basically, it's a 2-acre tract. We're cutting it up into 2 1-acre lots, and all of the improvements, it was kind of built this way, split in half because the pavement, the existing pavement buildings are all on the north parcel, so the south piece will be totally vacant. And so since then, we've actually updated it since this print. When we mailed out all of the adjoiners notices, the east adjoiner, the apartments, Chuck contacted us and said that they've got a 40-foot ingress, egress, and utility easement along our south line. And it's like, well, we just updated our title work, have title company, full title, gave us a title commitment, didn't show up. So he sent it to us, and it is 1998 ingress, egress easement and utility easement run along the south line. So we've been having discussions with the east adjoiner. And it's like, well, that really eats up that south lot. Can we reduce it? Would you be willing to reduce it? And so since then, since the plat you're seeing, we went out and located the utilities, and there is a water line, sanitary sewer line running east-west along the south line and along our east line. And we can reduce that to 30 feet instead of 40. So what we've agreed to, and I told them I'd mention this in the meeting, they were going to commit to this, so it's in the minutes, that it's a 40-foot ingress, egress easement and utility easement. So they're willing to reduce it to 30 utility easement only and get rid of the ingress, egress easement part. So when you're looking at 1998 instrument for the easement, it had a diagram, like an exhibit, just like this, that shows the 40-foot, and it actually shows this parcel in 2 pieces on that 98 document. I already showed it 150 foot and 150-foot road frontage for the 2 parcels. So I think the original intent was to do something similar to this. So when we finalize our secondary plat, we will have a 30-foot utility easement on the south line of lot 2. And before we record the secondary plat, the owner's attorney is drafting the easement that they'll get rid of the ingress egress, they'll reduce it from 40 to 30, and then that'll be in place, recorded, signed, and then that instrument number will be on the secondary plat before we bring it back. Other than that, like I said, it meets the subdivision control and ordinances, pretty simple minor plat. The reason it looks like a secondary plat, normally when I do the minor plats, I do a primary plat, secondary plat, same time, kind of same format, it's real easy. The primary plat shows the improvements, shows the utilities, shows proposed improvements, which we don't know what they are. And the secondary plat looks just like this, but the improvements are gone, utilities are gone. It shows the easements and the lot lines and stuff. We have, yeah. We haven't staked it, but we've been out and made, found rebars and controls and stuff. What?
I'd like to see the boundary survey before that we approve the secondary plan.
Oh, well, I didn't perform an actual boundary survey. We went out and did the work to prepare one. So I don't have an actual boundary survey. But yeah, sure, we can do that. That's no problem. Normally we don't stake it until approval, wasting time to go stake
The surveyor's report and stuff.
Do what?
I'd like to review the surveyor's report.
All right, yeah, no problem. All right, thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Anybody in the audience like to comment on this? Please come up to the podium. State your name and your address where you live, please.
I live, Leanne Brown, 6408, Parliament Court. There's some place,
p.m., so I can't work concrete Friday night, which is on the other
South
south end Kingdom properties, yeah. So that's, I got a water truck in the middle to come here tonight, I guess, to see, and is it a strip mall?
But there's nothing in concrete.
Okay,
Tonight, we're just approving the split of the land.
okay, I'm just here just to see what's going on. Because we're right here. Our office is.
We're just dividing that lot into two.
Okay,
It's already planned business. That's the gist of the meeting tonight.
yeah, because it is zone plan business.
It is
It'll be
zone.
back again before this board when they do decide to build on it. Okay, I get it.
When they do decide to build something on it, it will come back to here. But thank you. Thanks for coming. Any other comments?
I have no online comments.
No online comments? Connie? Connie, okay?
Connie, you
Cheryl?
okay?
Cheryl?
No, I don't think they have anything either.
Okay.
They're looking good.
All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve PC 09022020-01 primary plat for property located at 7550 South State Road 67, System Family Dentistry, as presented with the modifications from staff.
Are you entertaining a motion?
Yes,
Make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
thank you, Kyle. Do I have a second? Second. A motion is second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
We have to do a roll call.
We have to roll call because they're out.
I'll call you out.
I keep forgetting we got to. Sorry.
Carol Hannah. Kyle Eichhorn.
Aye.
Tim Pritchard.
Aye.
Jenny Sisson. Cheryl Rainey Hunt.
Aye.
Hold on.
You gotta call louder.
Aye.
All right. Cheryl Rainey Hunt. Was that a favorable from Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. And then Connie Schultheim.
Aye.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, item B. PC 09022020-02 MI Homes of Indiana, amendment to the zoning map for property located at south and west 605 South State Road 67. Agriculture to two family.
We have tonight present to you petition is a rezone zoning amendment for two parcels, or actually three, currently owned by the South Madison Community Foundation and Prairie Creek Partnership, represented by the Begley family. Tonight, representing the petition, we have Mike Austin, counsel, Tim Westerfield, and John Isaacs of MI Homes. And I'm actually gonna turn this over pretty quickly for them. They have a great presentation to give you guys that would just be stating everything I'm gonna tell you. The rezone is from ag to two family.
My name is Mike Austin. I'm the attorney for the petitioner, and my office is located at 911 Union Street in Anderson. Petitioner's MI Homes of Indiana LP. They're present tonight by two of their representatives, and Keila already mentioned the names, John Isaac and Tim Westerfield. So what we're seeking here is a rezoning of a tract that's about 55.5 acres. On the west side of State Road 67, between County Road 600 South and Campbellwood Drive. We think we've complied with the preliminaries. We've mailed out certified mail notices. Several we mailed again just because they came back just to try to be extra cautious. And the town has published a newspaper notice. As Kayla said, the property is owned part by the foundation and in part by a partnership that, as I understand it, is fully owned by Dr. Robert Begley. What we're proposing is a rezoning from ag to TF or two family for a new residential subdivision that would be called Prairie Creek Overlook. What the petitioner hopes to build is 73 single family units and what they refer to as paired villas, or I guess you could almost call them the type of a duplex on 35 lots. Basically, the single family units would be on the north portion of the real estate, and the paired villas would be more on the south portion of the real estate. With regard to land use, about 28.3 acres of the tract would be in lots, including the 3-acre pond. There would be almost 20 acres in common area. That would be about 35% of the total acreage. Average single family lot size would be about 7,800 square feet. And the average lot size for the paired villas would be about 10,800 square feet. Both Tim and John are prepared to respond to your questions. And we want to thank Kayla and Rachel and Scott for their courtesy and help with this. They've been very nice to work with, very professional. We're kind of reserving judgment on Jeff.
He doesn't have his 90 days yet.
So with that, we look forward to working with you on this. I'll turn this over to John Isaacs. Thank you.
And just for the Plan Commission, there is the presentation from MI Homes in your Google Drive folder. I hope you found it already, but I wanted to throw that out there in case you haven't. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Here's a copy of the same presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jonathan Isaacs. I'm Land Acquisition Manager for MI Homes here in Indiana. And we're excited for the opportunity to have a new development plan here in Pendleton. Just to introduce you a little bit about MI Homes. Sorry if I take this off. I don't feel like I'm projecting very well. MI Homes was started in 1976 in Columbus, Ohio, with the intent to become a better builder. Mel and Irving Schottenstein now looked around the area and said, kind of like the Wendy's McDonald's thing. McDonald's didn't invent the hamburger, they just invented a better way to deliver it, if you believe that. So they felt the same way, that from a home building perspective, you can put the customer in a better position to be part of the process of building their home, making choices, having some customization to their home, and making it an overall better experience, and ultimately build a better home. And ultimately, in order to build a better home, the idea has become that you have to build a better neighborhood to build a better home. That way it becomes a better community. So that's been the stance for MI Homes since their inception. They are now a publicly traded company, are in 12 different markets across the Midwest and the South. And obviously here in Central Indiana. They have been in Central Indiana for a little over 25 years. Obviously, first time in Pendleton. As MI Homes has grown, they have stayed true to the Irving Schottenstein's message of the customer is the most important, and always take care of the customer as they go through. And you'll see that in the attention to detail that we have in the homes that we build. If you were to walk through communities that we have, you would see that the builder is always putting their best foot forward in their developments. We pay a good attention to detail as far as entry features and landscaping and things like that as well. Those are all things that we feel are important to a neighborhood design. So I would like to kind of focus in on the site itself and talk about the product and why we chose what we did and how the layout was decided upon. We go forward. One more slide. One more. So just to kind of talk through why two-family dwelling versus a different type of zoning classification. When we started looking at zoning classifications that you have, single family doesn't work to do a duplex product, and your largest or smallest single family lot size was significantly larger than what we were looking to propose. The idea was to take advantage of some of the terrain that this site has. And obviously with our site plan, we came up with a significant amount of open space that is within the development. So those are the development standards that we kind of geared for to look for in the two-family dwelling at one zoning classification meets all the criteria. So rather than trying to draft a plan unit development, we're trying to stay in straight zoning classification. The straight zoning classification provides all of the standard setbacks, development standards that we would need in order to make the development as proposed. So that's why two-family dwelling zoning has been requested. And we'll go forward one. We can skip one more. That was just a comparison. So this is the site plan, and when we started to work with the town staff, and also when the South Madison Foundation property, we started looking at it, it made sense that the South Madison property should be part of the development. So just Dr. Begley gave South Madison Corporation, or donated some of that property adjacent to the park for them to be good stewards with the ground. And part of that is being able to sell it as a development, which partially is good stewards. They get some income for the foundation. But also they were concerned about us working with the community and getting other elements, whether it's a walking trail or connectivity to the park. And so one of the things that you'll see is the road cut off of State Road 9 to the south side of the project. That is going to be a road that will connect in the future all the way back to Falls Park. Kind of lines up about where the parking lot is in the football field portion of Falls Park. And we'll be working with the town council on how that gets executed through our construction drawings as we move forward through the project. And then we would have an internal entrance off of that to the south. So that's one access to State Road 9. The main entrance is in the middle of the site. And the way the topography of this site kind of works out, there's a low spot in the middle that has kind of a drainage draw through it. And our intent there is to try to maintain that as much as possible, enhance it, and make it visible and part of the community. So as you drive in from State Road 9, you're looking right kind of down the gauntlet towards the future detention area and maintaining as much of that natural feel that you see out in the field today in that center portion of the project. And then that also helps set up a good transitional point between the single family, which would be to the north in the orange, and the yellow lots that are the paired villas that we are showing. So as a note, Rachel and Kayla, suggested that we reach out to NDOT and talk about the idea of that location of the roadway, and if that's the best place and safest place to have it. We've had a preliminary conversation with NDOT. We are supposed to have a scheduled Zoom call. Has not happened yet with their traffic engineer, so that we get an idea of what traffic improvements are going to be required along State Road 9, right turn lanes, left turn lane, location of that driveway, that kind of thing. We're still hoping to have that this week, obviously being late Wednesday, and I don't have that notice yet. I'm starting to doubt that it'll be this week. But preliminarily, they felt that that location of that driveway should work there. The opposite side of the road, there are about 10 homes that have direct driveway access to State Road 9. The southern roadway that we'll be putting in, it goes back to the park. That does line up with County Road 550, 500. Candlewood Drive. And then the next county road is really kind of off the property to the north. There's really no access to currently to line up existing drive roadways other than that. So that's why we propose in the middle based on the site plan. That kind of creates that opportunity. Go forward one, I took that same site plan and put it on the aerial photographs, like a Google Earth shot. And you can kind of see how we've taken advantage, especially on the north side of the site, where there's a lot more terrain, where the road network is really kind of following the ridges. So we really, from a land plan perspective, really took a close look at how best to develop this site. There's probably some opportunities for some lookout, walkout basements on the ridges. The 3 cul-de-sacs, or at least the 2 cul-de-sacs on the north end, those overlook the Prairie Creek Preservation Area. That's where we get the name Prairie Creek Overlook. And then the duplexes, there will be a few duplexes that would be overlooking kind of the football field area. There is a lot of common area back there between the Prairie Creek Overlook and the golf and the Falls Park. We've also included common area all the way around the perimeter, both to the north and then all along State Road 9, where there'll be opportunities for mounding and landscaping and things like that to help screen off the neighborhood. And if we go forward, so the product, the paired villas, these are the pictures in the next couple of slides. These are renderings. These first ones are renderings, and the way that we develop these paired homes, there's 3 basic floor plan elevations. Each of them have 3 to 4 front elevations, and they can be interchanged together. Now, the A floor plan cannot be next to an A floor plan because the idea is you'll see that there's articulation in the front architecture, whether there's covered porches or the garages are offset to each other. So you see a lot of different roof line changes and projections there. That's all the intent to try to soften the look of the two home, kind of together. Forward one, those are actual pictures of product that we have in the neighborhood on the south side of Indianapolis, and you can just get a feel of what the fronts look like and what the backs look like in that picture. All the patio homes or paired homes have opportunities to have covered porches in their rear, and then they can also be extended. So if they take that extension to the covered porch, then you get a reverse gable on the back of the house. So some of those houses you'll see one side will have the covered porch with the reverse gable, and others might just have the integrated covered porch inside of into the home. And then there's like a white vinyl fence that we put in between the patios to help separate the private space between the two homes that are attached together. And then we have an HOA that we create that maintains the entire exterior of the home, the roof, the windows, the siding, whether it's whatever maintenance is required, plus we do lawn and snow care. So when a resident moves into one of our paired villas, pay a little bit more in an HOA fee, but they pay less in long-term maintenance, and they pay less in like insurance. Their insurance policy is really just for the interior, because the HOA is insuring the entire structure of the building. That way, if there's an issue with a fire, you don't have two different insurance companies fighting over who's going to make repairs. You got one insurance company for the building. You may have separate insurance companies that do the interior work, but each insurance company would be responsible for their own interior work. And then the HOA covers, the bulk of, the exterior. And the average square foot, so we started at about 1,450 square feet and go up to almost at 1,800 square feet as the base model. Each of those paired homes has an opportunity to have a second story loft added that can add up to 600 additional square feet of living space. So if you take an 1,800 square foot house and put the 600 on it, some of these have over 2,400 square feet of living space in them. Those upstairs bonus rooms, they can be one big family room. It can be carved out with a family room with a bathroom. They can have a small sitting area with a bedroom and a bathroom. So those are kind of the three ways that they can lay out. So you could end up with a 3-bedroom house with a den downstairs. Generally, there are 2 bedrooms and a den downstairs. It's the way that they're designed. The buyers that we have seen in the duplex paired villa generally are your empty nesters generation. They still want to be working, but they're downsizing. Their kids are off. So we see them, people that had kids, grew up in the Pendleton schools. They want to stay in the Pendleton area. They want to downsize from a larger home. This is an opportunity for them to go into that situation. Maybe it's a little more lock and go society. They want to be gone for 6 weeks in the wintertime, 8 weeks in the wintertime. They lock the door and they really don't have to worry about it because all maintenance is guaranteed on the outside of the structure. On occasion, we have seen younger generation living or buying these units. So some of the millennial buyers are also buying into this lifestyle home. And I just attribute that to the younger generation these days. They don't want to be married to the yards like we all have been over the years. And they want to have their Saturdays free. So the lawn care is maintained. So they're willing to pay for it. Obviously they have to have the income levels to handle that, but we are seeing that. The next slide will show the single family homes. This is out of the SMART collection that we have. In our case, SMART is smarter construction, smarter process, not that they're intelligent homes that talk to you. So through our process, sometimes in certain divisions of our product, we'll have more customizable options, and can be very overwhelming to a buyer. So what the Smart Series does is it simples things down to a package that if you want the granite countertops, okay, you go to package C, and now you have 3 levels of interior finishes to choose from. And it takes you from like 280,000 options to like not very many, like probably, a couple hundred options that they go through in a home. They still have customizations to put lights with, lights where they want them and ceiling fans and some of those things. But it's just a little more easy for the buyers to go through the building process and not get overwhelmed. We go to the next page. Those are actual pictures from our project down in Franklin Township on the south side of Indy. If you wanted to drive and take a look, we sent Rachel and Kayla to Cicero, not too far from here. Tamarack has this same product there.
I also prepped around this one.
So you
But
did.
you said, yeah, the Franklin Township one.
So in any event, you can get a feel for how some of the landscaping would be, how some of the open space that we create inside of a subdivision. But that subdivision is significantly larger. That one has a pool facility and some other things, but you'll get a feel of how we work on a subdivision design in that. Next page, just a couple more pictures of the streetscape that you see. There's 9 single-family home styles, a couple ranches, and the rest are 2 stories. We hold our own monotony requirement of not allowing the same house next to each other. We also do color variations and things like that. So we try to keep the variation of the streetscape ever changing. This neighborhood being a little bit smaller and having a few different street patterns, you're not going to be just driving down long streets where you would see some of that repeating pattern anyway. But that's something that we do on every neighborhood. From a home value perspective, we believe that Pendleton will support very similar home values to what we're seeing in our Cicero project. Actually, I think Pendleton might yield a little bit better than what we're seeing there. But what we're seeing is a lot of people desiring the Pendleton schools. In Northern Hamilton County, we're seeing a lot of people going into the Hamilton Heights schools. So they're leaving the Noblesville and the Fishers or HSE schools to other schools where they're not as large, not as overwhelmed. I think we've been kind of seeing Hamilton that way probably for the last 10 or 15 years, minus the hiatus we had in 08, 09. But we're excited to be able to offer opportunity to have more people live close to town. We're excited about State Road 9 being our front door and being close to the park and not far from the schools and not too far from downtown either. The paired villas, we believe, will average in price somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 a unit. The range probably is 230 to 260 or 270. And then the single family would probably range in price between 260 and 320. And we're seeing averages in Cicero pushing about 300,000 on the single family product of this type. We have 35% open space in this site as well, which I think that's exciting to have on a small site like this, where we were able to take the lots and compact them down a little bit and create some open space, and it's meaningful to the exterior of the community. With that, I will entertain any questions that you guys would have. Understand they're public hearing as well.
You mentioned early on the northern end, single families, there was 9 driveways and another.
No, the existing home sites on the opposite side of State Road 9 from us, there are 10 home sites that have direct access to State Road 9.
Right.
Yeah. We just have the one roadway. Yeah, State Road 9 directly.
And you're going to line up your southern entrance with Candlewood Drive. Correct.
Which I wouldn't call that an entrance as much as a roadway for the park that we'll gain access from.
You made a comment as well in the 2-family or the paired units. You insure those units?
The HOA would insure those units.
How do you insure something you don't own?
I can't answer that question. I mean,
I've never heard of somebody being able to insure something you don't own.
So it's because of the way the covenants and restrictions are written. It's a contract between the homeowners association and it's kind of like a condo association.
So they will actually own the property, these are not rentals.
Correct.
I've never been anybody know and insure anything they didn't own.
We asked the same thing. We scratched our heads at the beginning. But
I'm thinking insurance out in Florida, they don't know about hurricanes.
The insurance companies, they have a code for it and it works. But it's essentially like a condo policy. They call it a walls in. So
Right. Okay. The other comment I had on the, I mean, it's not tonight, but you might have heard some previous discussion on the other items that come up. Got a lot of homes in there going up. And we fought pretty hard the last go around to get cement siding, the trim and everything on it all around. Can you tell us about your products here, please?
yeah, all of our single family product that we're showing here would have vinyl as part of the exterior siding. They all have most of them have some masonry on the front, at least as a wainscot. And that's something that, we could agree to, like a 30% masonry requirement on the front elevation. The vinyl that we typically use is 0.46 vinyl. It provides a good quality, a lot of coloration, we use one that has a big reveal pattern. So it has the appearance more of wood or of like the Hardy Plank product. The attached product, because the homeowners association is maintaining it, and the cost for maintenance of either wood or Hardy is significantly higher. That does change the ability for the HOA, to maintain. What we have learned is every product out there has its downfalls. Whether it's brick and you have to tuck point it, maybe not as often as some of the other maintenance items you have to do. Installation can be problematic and you can end up with mold issues and things like that inside of the wall. Hardy plank or wood has to be painted and maintained over time. Very expensive to paint, homes. And then on a vinyl perspective, vinyl still has to be cleaned on a regular basis. It comes down to, really, I think it comes down to, maintenance issues when you're talking about any of the product that's out there. And, if Hardy Plank lasts 10 years before you have to paint it, can the homeowner sustain a $5,000-$6,000 hit to paint a house, where if you were, being able to power wash and do that for a couple $100 a year, as an example. So those are just kind of things to kind of think about. I think some other communities, have gone through all those same, discussion points. When we went through Cicero, they had kind of a similar question about siding material. And we put into our covenants restrictions a little tighter language for the HOA to have some self-help remedies for delinquent maintenance issues. So that's something that I would share with staff. And it's something that we wouldn't have a problem adding into our covenants restrictions.
We had a tough fight last go around. The last builder stepped up and won 100% cement siding on the last development. I think we set the bar for that going forward. I just don't know if this is going to fly with vinyl. It's the board's decision. I'm just stating some facts. It's Carrie Glen, Westport Homes, which is kind of behind you, across the creek there.
Which really piggyback, it gets into some of those discussions we had then. in regards to what we want our community to look like, to feel moving forward. And beyond the home, just some of the things that we want new developments to incorporate, which I see a lot of some open spaces, and I don't know if this isn't the time yet to incorporate that, but your trails, and does this incorporate all those elements we've hashed out over some of the other things we've approved in the past? Now, it certainly does as far as density. That's an easy one. What I am concerned is we have not approved a new development this close to a major road. Hunsinger is set back because the commercial piece is in front since it's a PUD, where this has the backs of residential houses butted up. And I know there's a berm or whatever we want to put, but how can we again ensure safety of at least half of this has, your families, which will have children, up to State Road 9. And I think this is the first time we've really had something like this. Yeah, and we need to think about that as well.
Rachel, can you comment on the comprehensive plan for Pendleton? Futuristic, what this property was in the plan to be, residential, retail, educational?
When we were approached with this project, we did, of course, look at our comprehensive plan for our future land use map of thing, and it was kind of a mix of either residential and commercial, or straight commercial, or straight residential. It would all be appropriate use for the site. So we think it's a very appropriate use. We think being adjacent to the park, having a residential component to it, of course, is a good thing, and we can really see that being an amenity to the site, that people would want to live here because they're adjacent to Falls Park and everything that is within Falls Park. As staff, looking at the kind of technical side, if you want to go back to the MI's presentation, just the lot sizes and everything. When Kayla and I reviewed this, everything really fell in line, we thought, with where it should be. There was very similar things to Carrot Glen, with things that we approved with Carrot Glen. Kayla, did you have any? I don't think you had any additional concerns, just with the kind of standards that were proposed from MI.
At this point, as far as the density goes, they do have a lot of open space. So I think I'd prefer to, turn it over to the attorney as far as how we want to get it through Plan Commission with the subdivision plat, because we did have to ask for some waivers with Carrot Glen because it didn't meet our standard single family code. However, in the two family, we do have a little bit of an interpretation issue with single family being a permitted use in the two family zoning district, but not mentioned in our bulk matrix. So we have single family attached and then two family. So the intent was to allow Pendle Point and neighborhoods like that to happen. Two very cohesive uses. They're all dense residential. They fit very much in. However, at that point, it's going to be just going through our ordinance and figuring out the best way to get it through. But no, I don't have any comments as far as their comparison, their proposed standards and their comparison to our two family. I think it's very much in keeping with things we've approved in the past and with Pendleton as a whole. I have the same concerns as Jenny about butting up directly to such a busy road. And then, as well as the driveway cuts.
So in their presentation to that site, the overlay that they had on the aerial map.
I guess I have a quick question while you're going there. Are we agreeing or approving any of these variances to the development standards tonight?
No.
The only issue you have in front of you tonight is a recommendation to make to the town council whether you want to change the zoning from the A to the what is that, TF. That's really the only thing. As far as this is good information to have, but theoretically, after the zoning change, a different developer theoretically could come in. You're just looking at it. Do we want this property to be this zoning? Do we want to recommend that to the council? Absolutely. Yeah, both sides are kind of giving some information here that'll be useful. Yep.
Staff-wise, we looked at the site too, and we do have some concerns. And overall, I think we are giving a favorable staff recommendation for the project. However, we would like to see Candlewood Drive extending all the way to Falls Park and connecting up with the existing parking lot that's in Falls Park. And we would also like to see the petitioner connect the subdivision to Falls Park with trails and other pedestrian amenities, and also designate some areas for future trails to extend into the pedestrian area of what they alluded to. It's our bicentennial property, which then adjoins to that constructed wetlands that NDOT owns right now, that at some point we foresee be transitioned over to the park. Of course, we don't think any of that needs to be constructed at this point to the bicentennial property, but at least allowing and having that vision that at some point the town will connect the subdivision up for that piece. However, the Candlewood Drive section we feel strongly about, and that there should be some pedestrian connections as this project moves forward on that piece. We also feel strongly that the kind of the mid-block cut isn't a good fit for our community. We have had several challenges along State Road 67 with cuts, and we would really like to see those more limited than what they currently are. We'd like to see an entrance pushed down to Candlewood Drive, and we've also spoken to the petitioner about looking at County Road 600 south. That's to the north of their property. We understand that land acquisition for parcels beyond what they've proposed tonight is not in their scope, but we feel like we should encourage that on their end to look at that and how that could connect up with their subdivision, so we can have some intersections line up with, we can have entrances to subdivision line up with existing intersections. Just as some of the issues we have dealt with on 67, we have North Pendleton Avenue that ties into State Road 67 that we've had come to this commission several times with concerned residents. It's gone to the town council several times with resident complaints about that. Hunsinger Farms to the south on 67 is another one where we've had issues at Hunsinger Boulevard, which with the addition of the homes that we approved last year, the lots that we approved last year, we do foresee a light going in at that intersection now, which will have some residents that will be very pleased with that. We are currently working as staff at State Road 67 and Madison Avenue, where the elementary school and the high school have drives. We have several accidents in that area that need to be addressed, so we're working with NDOT on that intersection right now. We're also foreseeing issues at Water Street and State Road 67 right now too, that will have to get addressed at some point. We as a community have invested a lot of money on trying to go back and retro fix some of these areas that we've had issues with on 67, and having a cut on a 4-lane highway without and having additionally all the cuts for the driveways across the street. I really see us having issues with this after it gets built out. I did have a conversation with NDOT about it with Nathan, the engineer down there, and expressed my concerns with it. The Anderson MPO, where we do get a lot of our federal funding to do projects on State Road 67, they had similar concerns as I did with having that mid-block cut. So one of the conditions that I would like to see put on it is we do look at alternative entrances to this that line up with Candlewood Drive or County Road 600. If I have anything else. We also think the petitioner should commit to connecting the subdivision to the planned business zoning district that's to the south of the property. with pedestrian connections as well. We want to make sure that we have an integrated neighborhood that will connect up to any future development that happens to the south of that property. We looked at our bike and pedestrian plan in this area too to see, what we had approved back in 2017 along State Road 67. It does call for a side path. However, we think on the side of the road that this parcel is on, we don't really think a side path is appropriate in this area because going further north, there is a lot of topography change, and I just don't think it would be, we're not going to get a lot of people from this subdivision trying to go north anywhere. If we do it on the east side of the road in the future, I think it makes a lot more sense. The high school and the middle school are on that side of the road. There's a lot more opportunities to do land acquisition and things like that we need to do for a side path. So we're not recommending at this time a side path be put in between Candlewood Drive and County Road 600 south on this particular parcel. However, we do think it's important to connect.
So what is the plan to protect, like Jenny was talking about, all these properties that are right up against the highway to protect for the safety of the families that are living there?
I think Jonathan had kind of spoke about doing some kind of a buffer area between the state highway and their property. It would be likely landscape mounds to kind of have that buffer area between those two uses. I think it's an appropriate treatment.
I personally think if you put a street cut for this subdivision in a line with 600 at the top of that hill, it'd be disastrous. We'll have the same thing that happens with Kendall Point. I think it's got to go that way. I agree with you. It probably needs to be down to Candlewood Drive to line up with there. 600 is already a bad intersection. Come up the hill from the north to there.
And how do we envision do we envision any future lights on 67 between Pendleton Avenue down to, I'll say, even Water Street in that corridor at all? And if so, then kind of how does the entrance, how does it all fit?
For any lights to go in at intersections, there would have to be a warrant study done of, check and box, there would be certain thresholds that the intersection would have to meet before it qualifies for a light or a different intersection upgrade. So, and that ultimately is NDOT's decision on what happens on their road facility. I would expect NDOT with any type of development like this that happens, just like we did with Hunsinger Farms, a traffic analysis has to be done that kind of dictates then what the intersection treatment should be. And then that's how that moves forward. Even with this, if this does move forward as proposed with the mid-block cut like this, NDOT would give them recommendations on what that intersection should look like, if there should be, turn lanes, passing blisters, whatever it would be that meets NDOT standards and their guidelines. That's what will have to be installed there. So once there is a certain level of accidents, or if it meets any other threshold, that's when those things kick in for an intersection upgrade. So like at Water Street, we're just not quite there yet for something like that to happen, or even at Madison Avenue. And then we also look at the proximity, or NDOT will look at the proximity to other lights, things like that. So there's several things that they take into consideration when they make this decision.
Right, a couple questions on the development standard. So the Pendleton TF district requires a 60-foot lot width, and you're proposing 45. The staff's okay with that narrow of a lot. And then it requires 7,200 square feet. It looks like theirs is about 6,750. So I guess we'll approve waivers for all those. And the same for the side yards. It requires 10%, which would be 9 foot on a 90-foot lot. If the TF district is appropriate, then maybe we should hold those standards.
Anybody in the audience have any comments, public or residents, or receive any letters or sit down? Carol?
I'm very interested in seeing that extension in the one go all the way to the park. I feel like that's one of the great amenities that we have is our park. And if there's not a road, people are going to be going by foot. They're going to be using it anyway. So I'd really like to see that happen early on.
Can I respond to that? The idea of having a roadway that goes directly from the intersection of Candlewood at 09, going straight back to the west towards Falls Park is to make that connection. I think we need to work with the Parks Department and the Town Council on how that can be done. There is a grade issue, significant grade issue that
That's cut right through there.
Yeah, there is. But from my engineer, telling us if we were to design a road there straight back, he would not feel comfortable designing it with the kind of slope that you're dealing with, let alone whether or not your traffic or your design engineer, your review engineering company would approve that kind of slope. So there are issues that need to be looked at as we move forward, and at a preliminary stage at zoning, we haven't gotten into that level of detail. I mean, we've got our topo shot. We have some idea what the grade looks like out there, but until we really get into design and figure out how the sewers are going to work and what grading on the site has to be, and what modifications we can do to that road to help soften it. At this point, we pulled our road that comes in off of, let's call it Candlewood, further away from the park. We started with it being closer to the park. We're pulling it closer. We may need to pull it closer to State Road 9 even. If I can talk about the curb cut directly to State Road 9, and the concern that we would have, and I've had experience in other communities where we've had parks in the middle of neighborhoods. One thing that I like what we've done here is we've maintained a separate entrance from the road that's going to be the park entrance. So I'm not going to have football moms and soccer moms hightailing it through my neighborhood, going through football dads too. They speed. It's not just the moms, but this way we can separate park traffic from our community traffic, and that'll resolve a lot of issues. The concern that we have, if you're going to make us move the driveway all the way to the north off of our site, which incurs us trying to buy property that may or may not be for sale. There's also a grade problem there. That road, as you come off of 600 going to the west onto our site, that's a very steep slope there. So you'd have a quick curve to get, just about where the house is. You'd have to make a curve there. Again, I'm not sure from an engineering traffic perspective if that's a safe movement, or if NDOT would allow that type of road connection to State Road 67 that has an immediate curve where they have site distance issues and other things. Again, that's without knowing what those issues are, because we haven't looked at it from that perspective. We don't even know if those homes would even be sellable or purchasable. And then it also changes the whole entry detail of the subdivision into the site, taking advantage of kind of the natural drainage draw that already exists there. And that's kind of the logical point when we started laying out the subdivision.
I guess not the whole thing in general. Some reservations. One glaring item that sticks out is the vinyl siding. Last go around, the board and people that comment, we kind of set the bar at fiber cement on that project or anything going forward. Secondly, there's a lot of cul-de-sacs, and I know the other subdivision, we've fought not to have a lot of cul-de-sacs, so we would have continuity with our drives for fire protection. I know it's a funky law because it's the weird terrain, whatever. I'm just making some general.
And I just wanted, we didn't address it as staff too, like, for the district. And this is a funky lot, and there's not a lot of connectivity to other lots because of the topography changes and, where Sierra 67 is. So as staff, we thought that was an appropriate treatment on the interior of the subdivision because of those reasons. Whereas normally we want to connect to other structures.
Along with that, we've got a lot going on in town currently. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. The other part of it is it's, originally intended maybe in the comp plan to be retail, commercial, industrial, something up there. But things do change as we've seen before. So I'm gonna leave it up to the board to make. To me tonight, I think it might be appropriate to table it till next month and we gather some more information here.
I guess I feel like it's appropriate either as commercial or residential. I mean, there is residential right across the highway, so it wouldn't be butting up against something that's not consistent.
I guess also to concur with Jen, I don't like the backs of the homes facing the highway.
Right, I guess that's a good question of the petitioner on that. We have seen neighborhoods develop along busy thoroughfares where there is a drive parallel to the thoroughfares. And
In
then,
the front.
yes, and then the first row of houses actually opens up facing that road, so we don't have homes backing up to the busy road.
Right.
That's something we could look at. The problem is twofold. One is
You lose
much
land.
more expensive to build, much more expensive for you, the town, to maintain over time. So single loaded streets are very inefficient and very costly. So your miles of street versus the number of homes that you have on that street is cut in half. So your gas tax money and everything else that comes into it is cut in half. But you have the full maintenance still. So most communities that went to that format have abandoned that philosophy.
We just don't have a lot of land left within these town limits, so we just try to protect what we have.
We can hash out those details. With all the zoning variances.
So you do understand what you're going to be up against when we moving forward. You're hearing some of the concerns that we have and some things that we're going to have to work through.
I don't think you'll get vinyl fast. I'm telling you right now,
You don't think what?
you'll get vinyl siding approved. If that's a deal breaker, then. I mean, we did with Huntsinger. Huntsinger Farms was a special egg out there. That thing was developed years ago, was abandoned. Those people were living on the moon out there for 10 or some years. The streets were deteriorating, the property wasn't taken care of. We approved that to be in common with what was out there to get it done, get that finished. Going forward, what's happened around here is, again, with the land we have left and the growth that's coming this way, we've set the bar pretty high. Obviously, you've seen what went on with the other PUD that was out west out there. It's been out there since '04. Obviously, those homes out there are very, very expensive. And I don't think the product that they were intended to put out there would have fit real well. I'm not bashing anybody's homes, but the one attorney did say that he wouldn't be able to afford to live here. Well, we've got almost 900 homes that are in this price range now that are affordable to starting families or people transferring in or what have you. But I know with regard to Carol and the comments, just kind of telling you, I don't think you'll get some of these things approved when you come back to go through the other steps, let alone being on the highway and some other issues there. Just
I would like to add, the things I do like is when you talk about we don't have much land, we don't. And I think anything that butts up Falls Park and around it, we need to really think about what's touching it and how it looks. This whole backside touches. And so we have, it's already approved for a couple different things as far as uses, you know.
I thought originally too, this would have been retail or commercial because that back there slopes so much that would stay in the front
But then as
from a
far as,
retail standpoint.
do we want it retail and not be able to capitalize off of Falls Park? Because we only have one big park in our community, and that's what draws people in. That's what draws some of the homes. And so making sure that we're leveraging it to the very best we can as well, that's another consideration. And if there are going to be more trails, and if this community connects in with the road and trails all the way to the other trails, I'm assuming, and then the back end of these football fields, you can get through the trails. I think a few of them still need to be developed a little better. Just really, how do we envision that and to capitalize off the precious land? I think that's another thought. Is it best served as this, or is it best served as strip mall that no one really is getting access to some of that back there? So
Mike?
Yeah, just a brief comment. I think it was just earlier. These are great questions, great discussion. That's obviously it's a group. But we're just talking about rezoning.
I understand that. We just kind of threw a warning flag to him. I don't want him to come back with, vinyl siding and vinyl shutters and vinyl this and no trees and no fences and no playground equipment. I mean, we got the Cadillac last time, the last subdivision. And it's probably what we want this time. Yeah, I just don't want them to get too far down the road and get stonewalled or blindsided by it. Yeah. I don't have any more comments or anything.
It's just one other thing I noticed when I drove by this evening. The lights were on at the ballpark there. So these, I don't know what that means for these homes that are here to have those overhead lights in the backyard.
Any comments from Cheryl or Connie? I don't know. They can't hear me. Can you hear me? Cheryl?
They can hear you.
Connie?
Yes.
You have any questions?
I have no questions or comments, Tim.
Connie? I guess that was a no.
I'm good, thanks.
Well, seems like me, I'm kind of stuck on the fence. I'm gonna make a motion tonight to table it till October meeting. Maybe we can gather some more information. They might want to think about the vinyl versus fiber cement or what they're getting into going forward, make some changes. We might look at some things differently, the cuts or whatever. That's my recommendation. I'm to make a motion to table until October.
So effectively, that would be a continuation of this public hearing to the October 7th meeting.
Right.
Is the petitioner open to that?
And your ultimately, as you guys know, it goes to the council on your recommendation. So all we're voting on at this public hearing, be it this tonight or on October 7th, would be a recommendation to the council. Okay.
We probably by then will have more information.
I think we'll have more information. Think about your siding. Okay. Thank you. Okay, last but not least.
Then we do have to take a
Oh, we got to take a
vote on
vote,
it.
I'm sorry. You need a roll call again? Okay.
Can we, yeah, was there a second?
No, we didn't get it. Can I get a second on tabling this till October meeting?
I
Continuation.
second. This is Cheryl. I second.
Thank you, Cheryl. Rachel will now call a roll call vote, please.
All right, Carol Hannah,
Okay.
Kyle Eichhorn,
No.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes on the motion.
Jenny Sisson,
You want to no to continue it? Okay. Very clear.
I'm gonna say no, the vote's for just on the approval of plats.
Cheryl Ramey Hunt,
Yes on the motion.
and Connie Schultz Hines.
Yes.
Motion fails, deadlock. Yes, we have to have 4 votes for a disposition of this. We can continue, offer a recommendation, but we do have to come up with 4.
I feel like to change the zoning at this point is, I mean, all of the information that we want doesn't have anything to do with zoning. If we want to, we're going to need this additional information as we go forward, but that's why I voted no.
I concur. I voted that way for the same reason.
I feel like for the comp plan, it's transitional. We have single family, parks, and like, sense.
Well, the president, you could invite another motion from someone else. Ultimately, if we can't get 4 votes for a recommendation, that we're going to end up at a continuance in any case. But you could certainly make a motion for a favorable recommendation, a neutral recommendation, or an unfavorable recommendation to the council, which would pass it on to them probably at their September 10th meeting.
So if we put in the staff conditions, then the rezone is subject to those requirements.
That's questionable. That's more of a guideline than anything else, what we're going to expect at the primary plat process. But the zoning itself is going to be the zoning code that's in our ordinances. And even if these guys lost interest in the project, those conditions wouldn't necessarily be recorded as part of the zone. Those are more of a variance type conditions or things like that. But they are something that you're giving notice to anybody that puts a primary plat out there. We're going to expect to see this, guys. But as far as a binding condition, I don't think so. A favorable recommendation, Ms. Hannah, for approval. Sorry. You get to make a recommendation tonight if we don't continue it. So it'd be you to approve I think I'm reading you as saying you'd like to make a favorable recommendation to rezone the property as applied. Okay. All right. It's late.
I would like to second that.
We'll do a roll call vote again. Carol Hannah,
Aye.
Kyle Eichhorn,
No.
Tim Pritchard,
No.
Jenny Sisson. Cheryl Ramey Hunt,
No.
Connie Schultz Hines.
No.
I'll request a
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that
We
right?
vote on his request.
Yes. I'll make a motion with Brown, representative from my homes to continue this meeting to October 7th planning meeting. I'm asking for a second, please. I have a motion and a second. You call another roll call vote, Rachel, please?
Carol Hannah. Aye. Kyle Eichhorn.
Aye.
Tim Pritchard.
Aye.
Jenny Swinson.
Aye.
Cheryl Ramey Hunt.
Aye.
Connie Schultz Hyde.
Aye.
Thank you. Carried to October. Okay.
Can you put me in front of Foster's Park?
What do you say? They will be back for about a month or two. We'll have popcorn next time. Thank you, gentlemen. Item C under new business. Item C is PC 090220020-03 Arbor Homes. Secondary plat phase 4 at Huntsinger Farms.
We'll try to make this easy.
This was the second phase.
Got a chance about 500 tonight, okay?
This application is the second phase of the Huntsinger Farm primary plat that you guys approved here at the very beginning of this year, I believe. And there are some technical just questions and comments that our different departments had, but in the end, everyone signed off on it. The change of the roundabout to having one less leg off of it south into Lantern Meadows did kind of mess with some easements and existing infrastructure for water and electric. So water and electric are working with Structure Point. Josh Kregular is here tonight, representing Structure Point in the petition. It's all stuff we're working through. It's a big cornfield down there at this point. The big point that I think we're all very happy about is this phase includes the connection to State Road 9. And it's going to be another roundabout that mirrors the other Huntsinger Boulevard roundabout, very much in keeping with that original planned unit development, sweeping Central Park system with an 8-foot asphalt path along the ponds. Unfortunately, one of the major issues that I was a little bit concerned to see was that that last pond that's being constructed on the south side of the roundabout is a little square. It is offset from the roundabout shape and has some straight end lines that are just given a little radius. So I wasn't sure. I just wanted to double check with you guys that that was not just an accident. I know we talked about that with previous revisions as part of the primary plat. But if it was just because you guys needed more volume or couldn't change the shape due to property line boundaries, then I would request we kind of shield those straight lines and then that arc across the south side of the roundabout with more of a landscaping commitment, just like we did the berm along the eastern edge there, where we're going to have landscape easement between the residential and the planned business portion in State Road 9. And if we could have some native groupings, especially, that'd really be great. They could just kind of mask those sharper corners and make it look just a little bit more like a natural pond, because that's really what the whole selling point on the Central Park system was. So anyway, that was something that I've noted. In addition, we'd like to upgrade the sidewalk along State Road 9 from to a 10 or 12-foot side path to reflect plans in the bike and ped plan. Ultimately, we'd like to see State Road 9 have a nice side path all the way going south. And we are curious about if we can utilize that as an interregional connector with Hancock County, since this does go directly into downtown Greenfield, if you follow 9 down. So all in all, very much in keeping with the original primary plat. Arbor and Structure Point had submitted a very complete primary plat to begin with. So it was just a matter of looking over some, misspelling here or there. Yeah, just a comment to make sure all the revisions got carried through as needed and further investigation of those utility locations was taken into account. So we'll be sharing the construction plans over the next month and making sure it's all in order by the time construction begins. But yeah, planning department and all of the town departments are in favor just given the staff recommendation shown in the presentation.
You okay with all the changes?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Okay. I entertain a motion to accept Harbor Homes secondary plat phase 4 at Huntsinger Farm, 20-03 as submitted with the staff recommendations noted.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Carol. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kyle. Have a roll call vote. Rachel, please.
Carol Hannah,
Aye.
Kyle Icorn,
Aye.
Tim Pritchard,
Aye.
Jenny Sisson,
Aye.
Cheryl Rainey Hunt,
Whoops. Aye.
Connie Schultz Hines.
Aye.
Thank you.
This is Karen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being the easy one.
Oh, my gosh.
That's not over.
I went to 10:37 before, but it was close.
You're getting there.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Hi, everybody. Have a
See
good
you,
week.
Karen. Thank you.
People that lasted too. We don't have any more awards.
Does.